Uh, yeah.
What up, Talking Fight fans? Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Friday Night Panel with yours truly, Mike Orr, and my man, Lou Eisen. Lou, how are you doing? Great haircut.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing fine. I saw the fights last week, and Jamie Munguia looked great, and I like John Ryder because he gave it a shot, but I thought he was extremely outclassed.
Yeah,
and he just, whether it was his age or his style, it seemed he was out of kilter for most of the fight.
definitely.
But I knew Munguia does, is easy to hit. He takes a good shot, which is good for him. But I don't think that, against Canelo, that who hits a lot harder, that could, be a deciding factor.
Definitely. Yeah, there's been some great fights during the week and last weekend. I was super excited. Munguia, he looked great, coming through with that TKO round 9. The super middle and that WBC silver super middle title. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with, man. This kid's still young.
Yeah.
He's got a lot ahead of him. I've been watching this kid for a while now. Kid, I can't even call him a kid. He's grown up in that ring pretty quick, man. He's definitely.
I have to say though, when you said WBC silver super middle, there's a great boxing writer named Springs Toledo, and he wrote, I think 214, 215, that the criminals and felons who run boxing today, they got to get rid of these. There's over 100 champions in every division. He said it's too much. He said growing up there were 8. And everyone knew them.
It's ridiculous. There's too many. Well, there's a major sanctioning, and then there's all these minor sanctioning, and all these other small little. At any given time, like 100 belts, like that's a hell of a lot, man.
Well, and also, let's say Usyk does fight Fury, which I don't think will ever happen, but let's say he does.
Yeah.
And he wins the title. He's got 5 titles. He's got to pay $200,000 for every title every time he defends it. But he's got to pay $1 million.
Just to fight.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's I think it's 3% upwards of no more than 300,000 per title. That's big money.
Right. And as Springs Toledo said, in the 50s, Frank Costello, Frankie Carbo, Blinky Palermo, Lucky Luciano, they couldn't have robbed a guy better with a gun to their head.
Yeah,
so
no,
they're probably spitting in their graves, going, "Why didn't we think of this?
Yeah.
We don't have to commit criminal acts. We'll just say, hey, you got to pay us money to defend the title." And it's $200,000. I mean, that's ridiculous. The fighters have the power. The fans don't care. The fighters all got together and said, "Hey, to hell with these people. We'll just fight."
You got to be able to afford the titles. That's the thing. You can't just, you can't come in there and just win them and then, not have a bank to bank you.
Yeah, and the only person it didn't affect was Ali, because he said, regardless of who, when the WBA stripped him, he said, it doesn't make a difference. No one cares what they think. I'm the champ. I'm Muhammad Ali. I'm above the sport. So, whether they strip me of the title or not, makes no difference. I'm still the best heavyweight on earth, and the people know it. So it's crazy. Champion in recess. How do you get a champion in recess? I mean, what is this, grade 6? I mean, you defend a title or you lose it.
Yeah, you do. You got to defend it or you lose it. I don't know how these guys are holding on to this thing.
And also Fury fighting Chisora and Dillian White. I mean, back in the 60s, they would have said, you lose your title. These guys aren't ranked, or they're ranked 9th and 10th. You got to fight the number 1 ranked or number 2 ranked. And you and I both know, and we've said this many times, if Fury wins or Usyk wins, whoever has all 5 belts or 4 belts,
million too every time you fight.
And those sanctioning bodies are going to start pulling.
Yeah.
This guy. Well, you got to fight our guy in 90 days.
Yeah.
Well, I can't fight this guy in a week and then fight your guy in 90 days after. That's not going to happen. Well, then you lose.
No, it's not going to. It's not going to. Tonight there's a fight card on. It's not bad. It's one of these Ashton Sylvie most valuable promotions card. Jake Paul, and his little camp that he's building there. I'm proud to say that one of the hosts that is joining our show in the near future is actually fighting on this card tonight. Julian the Quiet Storm Smith, deaf pugilist.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 7-2 currently holds his record. Is 33 years old, out of Chicago. He's taken on an opponent tonight that I hope gets his ass whooped. To be honest, he's taking in what is it? Orestes Velasquez is who he's taking on, who's 8-0 right now, and they're fighting at 140. It looks like it's going to be probably the co-main event under the Ashton Sylvie, who's 10-0, taking on Esteban Falco. These guys can fight, man. And one of these things is, Julian, I've known him for a little while now, and honestly, he just keeps getting better. And it's such a challenge for him as a deaf pugilist, man. Like, you don't hear your corner, you don't hear the refs. It's you don't hear that bell. So
no, that's why they have the light in the corner.
That's it, right? So there's a lot of challenging things ahead of him, and right now he's actually being considered a new prospect coming in.
What's his weight?
140.
Too bad he's not fighting Adrian Broner, because he would beat him and he wouldn't have to listen to him.
True. You know what? We'll ask him that when he comes and joins the team, because he'll be doing that soon enough.
In the 1700s, there was a fighter named Deaf Burke, the deafened, like the deaf one.
Yeah.
From Britain, and he was a successful middleweight and heavy at times. So he actually did quite well. And more recently, in the last 30, 40 years, there have been some deaf boxers. It's quite rare.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's the people running the sport that are deaf.
Yeah.
But
or the refs, or the judges. Yeah, exactly. But Julian's got a great story, man. Definitely a kid to watch tonight. He's a beast in that ring, man. He's been trying so hard to get fights. Finally, this one got together for him. I know I think it was three fights that just they wouldn't go. They turned him down. He's dangerous, man. I love watching this kid. He's got a great style. Definitely tune in tonight to watch this one on that Ashton Sylvie headliner. This one, 20-year-old from Long Beach, California, announced weight 140 pounds for a planned WBC youth lightweight title. This one versus Brazil's Esteban Falco. He's another kid to watch here, man. Falco's another one of these young up-and-comers, dangerous, fun, fast. Sylvie's 10-0 right now, 9 KOs. I like this kid. This guy got signed last year, I believe, to MVP. MVP does their, they take their time with their prospects they sign. Khadijah Green, Ashton Sylvie, made Amanda Serrano millionaire. And and now Julian Smith is looking like going to be one of these next guys. He's one of the prospects that they're looking at. Definitely check him out tonight.
Do you know who was impressive last week? Straw weights, the minimum weights.
Oh,
that was a great fight.
Yes. I told you, man. I love watching those guys because they can throw like 1,000 punches around.
The knockout was great, and he took his time.
Yeah, he did. He really did take his time. So this is the only fights on for tonight. Friday Night Boxing, MVP. They don't like to compete against anybody else, right? So, Then the big one tomorrow, man. Saturday, getting underway. Conor Benn, Peter Dobson. I don't know if you give a shit about this fight because I really don't care too much about it.
I don't either, and I don't like Conor Benn.
I think he's a jackass, loudmouth. You got caught. You cried, said you didn't do it. Yeah, you just didn't open the cap.
That's just, it's like saying to your wife, I got a prostitute last night, but we only cuddled.
Yeah,
So,
right.
uh,
Exactly.
it's it's actually not bad. But
Yeah.
what's wrong, Mike, with saying I cheated? I'm sorry. I'd like another chance, and I'll agree to random testing.
I I
Be
think it's
honest.
I think it's the better thing to do, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when Joe Louis in his first fight with Walcott, he got the decision, but he said I lost. He beat me. I got the decision because of who I am. But he beat me. I know it. And when Ali fought Norton the third time, he said at the press conference, I'm glad I got the decision, but Ken won. I know it. He knows it, and you know it.
Mhm.
So you appreciate someone's honesty. It's like going to a restaurant. Yeah, our food is good, but the service is bad. So
Yeah,
you'll get good food, but you're going to wait a really long time. And Ben should just admit it. They had him dead to rights.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and he's sort of like a British Adrian Broner. He just keeps sinking himself the more he opens his mouth. You want to, as a promoter, you want to say, I can book you, but just shut up. Don't
Yeah,
talk.
yeah. Honestly, the rest of the card, great, great. We got Austin Williams on here. This kid ranked number 7 right now in that middleweight division, 15-0, taking on Armel Iasa, who's 10-0. Both these guys are going to come together. This is going to be explosive, I think. I'm hoping it'll be explosive. Khalil Cole on this card taking on Juan Gerardo Osuna. Both these guys undefeated. Osuna bringing a 20-0 record. This is the light heavyweight division. Khalil Cole, we know what this guy is capable of. Heavy hands. Then we got Johnny Fisher on the card. Love watching this kid go. This is that heavyweight division. We got Dimitro Bezus, and I can't wait to see this, man. Fisher's been just he's been good, man. 10-0, 9 KOs. He's fun to watch. The Rumford Bull. He's only 24 years old. 6'4". His last fight, Harry Armstrong. It was a 7th round TKO. Emilio Salas, 1st round knockout. The guy's got some power. Good old British boy.
You know, uh, that sounds like a great card, and different weight classes, which is great to see. But I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people, I tell my wife, she said, how long is are these fights going to last? Well, I'll say there's 2 heavyweights and a couple light heavyweights. So those aren't going to last long.
No, they usually don't. They usually don't. George Liddard is on this one. Another kid, middleweight division, up and comer. He's 5-0. He's taking on Andrew Bochin, who's 3-0-1. Liddard, good looking kid, man. 21 years old, 5'10". He's from Essex. Sporting that 60% knockout rating, 3 knockouts out of his 5 wins. He's another one to watch, man. He's another young enough to cover, real fast.
I find it fascinating when you say like a guy's from Essex.
Yeah,
For a guy like me, I mean, I know they have like their boxing history goes back over 300 years
yeah,
in Essex. I mean, if you're going to be a boxer from Essex or any of those counties there, you
you got to be good.
good.
You got to be good, man.
Yeah.
And you know what? And if you're from there and you're born there and your heritage is there, it's in you. That's why these kids are good like that. But a lot of these kids, man, these young and up and comers, which I watch, to see who the next people are, to show you guys out there who to watch. That's why I know all these young and up and comers, because I'm watching them from the beginning. And honestly, there is a great pool of talent coming. There's a great talent pool. It's there's lots of good young and up and coming kids that are just going to explode onto this scene. And it's almost going to be like a baby boom. You know what I mean? It'll be a baby boom for boxing. These kids are just going to boom, explode all around the same age, in between that 22 to 30-year-old mark, and then they're just going to get known. And we're going to have that shift. We're going to have that shift of, oh, look, these are all the new names we're going to talk about for the next 10 years, and they're here already.
It's interesting because this week I posted on Once Upon a Time in the Prize Ring, my Substack, which you can get this Lou Eisen at Substack.com. And I had an article I wrote called Mobsters and Boxers beating the Nazis. And so when they had all these Nazi groups in the United States, and I'm going to relate this to what you said, believe it or not, in the late 30s, early 40s, a Republican judge got together with Meyer Lansky, head of the Jewish mob, and partners of Lucky Luke Channel, and they got all these mob hitmen together with boxers, and they paid off the police. FBI said they looked the other way. Couldn't kill these Nazis, but they beat them up, threw them out windows, beat them up with clubs and stuff like that. And when I did more research, I found that the reason why because from 1890s to the 30s, a large majority of the boxers were Jewish and world champions. They weren't able to get into other professions. Boxing was open to them. Same with African Americans, and same with the Irish when they first came over. That's why you had John L. Sullivan, and everyone in his time was Irish, because there were signs that said no Irish need apply on all sorts of jobs. And now, when you fast forward to 2024, a lot of the people in Essex and England or in different places say, I wanted to do this originally or to do that, but people I know that have a degree in that, they can't get work. So why am I going to waste all my time on another 10, 15 years of schooling when I'm not going to get the job anyways? If these guys can't get it now, I'm not going to get it then. So I like boxing. Life itself is a risk. So why not bet on myself, and go into something I like to do that I'm good at?
True.
And that's where a lot of in the 60s, 70s, and 50s, a lot of the boxers, heavier boxers, came from football. But now it's just a lot of them, like you said, it's in their blood, it's in their family. We're seeing second, third, fourth generation fighters. And that happens a lot in Mexico. And with everything else going on in terms of lack of jobs, they're like, they're so frustrated. Why not get in the ring? Why not do something? I don't need a degree to go to a gym and train. They'll train me for nothing.
And I'll tell you, there's nothing like getting in a ring and then, coming out after a nice session of throwing hands at somebody else.
Yeah.
It's very stress relieving. You walk around a little more humble. You're not always so pissed off at things. Things, keeps you calm.
And it gives you discipline and focus.
Definitely.
You can't be good at it unless you're disciplined and focused. And you could see fighters today, when they show up out of shape, you think, or 10 pounds over the weight limit. But the way you think, no focus, no discipline, didn't train, didn't care, And same when you look at Fury, when he was getting ready for Usyk. Look at that big belly.
Oh God.
279, 289. He wasn't disciplined.
No, not at all.
I stand by what I said months ago. He'll never fight Usyk.
Well, no, with this cut, honestly, we haven't even touched base on this really, have we?
No.
The cut.
It's a bad cut.
Yeah, it is. It is a bad cut.
It's
Definitely.
deep and it's wide and it's in a bad place, right over his eye, the bony part, the top and on the right side. And it's going to need a good amount of stitches. And even after it heals, realistically, you should leave it alone for a while.
Well, what is it? Capitello believes that he needs about 90 days to fully heal off this one. So 3 months. At least. Yeah.
Foreman needed 30 days because it was a smaller cut. But it helped Ali win the fight because Ali just kept on training.
Oh, it's horrible. It's a nasty one.
And that's what Usyk's going to do. He's going to keep training. He's not going to do what Liston did when Ali, in their second fight, had a hernia, and it was canceled for 6 months. So Liston went and got drunk and gained weight. Usyk said, no, he's getting stitches. I'm staying in the gym for the next 90 days.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving every day, all day.
Oh, man, it's a nasty one. I was just looking at it there. It's disgusting.
Well, it is. And Michael Lodger, the Canadian fighter, great guy, said, I've had cuts like that, and I've seen them on other guys. That's an elbow or a headbutt. You don't get a cut like that from a punch.
No, it's disgusting. It's a bad one.
Yeah.
It's
cut was from a punch or from an elbow. Excuse me. sparring partner caught him with an elbow, opened his eye up.
Yeah. Here we go. Here, I'll show you just a little bit of it there. Here we go. There it is, people.
Yeah,
That's
wow.
it.
And you can see the area is really swollen too.
Oh yeah, that's open right up. That's a finger, man. That's like you can stick your finger in that thing. It's pretty gross. Yeah, thanks to Boxing Scene. Just borrowed that for a second there to show everybody the picture off your website. Yeah, definitely. It's a nasty one. It sucks. It's gonna put it. It's definitely gonna put the fight on hold for a while.
You know what's interesting though, Mike? I was thinking before this that could be a possibility during the fight because of the disparity in height. You know, that Fury's 6 inches taller and he likes to lean in.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance that cut will be reopened. And if Usyk's smart, he'll aim for it.
Well, you know what? Usyk's kind of the guy who's going to play those angles and definitely do that.
Yeah.
You know, he's definitely a very technical guy. You know, it's a big one. It's unfortunate. Oh, we're not going to get to see it. You know, I'm pretty sure Usyk is going to have to
fight Hrgovic.
Yeah, he's going to have to fight somebody else. One of the other belts is going to come up very soon. He's going to have to fight somebody. I don't think we're going to see him, man. I think Tyson's going to retire after this. I don't believe we're
I agree, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of the sanctioning bodies pulls one of their titles in the next couple of weeks, in which case they'll have 2 other guys fight, and just greed and avarice and criminality. You know.
Yes.
It's frustrating.
Then we're moving on. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Boxer. Here we go. Dan Aziz, Joshua Buatsi.
Yeah.
The British light heavy and the Commonwealth light heavy. Dan Aziz, 20-0. Buatsi, 17-0. What are your thoughts? These guys are up there, you know.
I've been watching the press conferences. They don't like each other.
No, they do not. This is that light heavyweight division. You know, Aziz, 20-0, sporting those 13 knockouts. Ranked 5 in the world, 5th in the world right now. He's 34 years old. He's 5'10". You know, another kid. You know, born, raised, Lewisham, London, United Kingdom. And you know, he's been working his way up there, man. He's been all over. He's been just batting up guys. He hasn't been like gifted these wins, man. He's taken them. He's been put in front of a lot of people. Some other up and comers that I've watched that he's taken out. And yeah, tonight I think this is a big one. Josh Buatsi. I like watching this kid, man.
Yeah,
he's a great fighter. 17-0, 13 KOs, 30 years old, 6'2", so a bit of a height difference there. He's got a 74.5-inch reach. Ghana, man. Ghana's got something in their water because, you know, they produce some vicious fighters that come out of, you know, those places.
Well, the greatest of all is Azuma Nelson, former featherweight champ. But you know,
see, I knew you'd have something for it.
Azuma or Aziz. The interesting thing about Aziz is that while they've been yapping at each other back and forth, it almost seems as if he's like, the title's incidental. I want you.
Yeah.
You know,
No, this is.
I've had enough of you. Now you got to pay.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. You know, everybody's been waiting for this one. At least, you know, I have been. Light heavyweight boxing. It's finally happening. Buatsi, Dan Aziz, OVO, Wembley, great place for it, I think. This one, I can't wait. It's ahead of it's a top of a really good card here. Buatsi, that, you know, he's that squeaky clean guy, man. That great record, vicious in there. And then we got Dan Aziz, another kid, man, very technical, skilled boxer. Ben Schlo must be just loving this one, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. And by the way, Buatsi is the name his mother made when she gave birth to him. Like when he came out of her, she went Buatsi, and then That's a terrible Johnny Carson joke, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Watsy has been called. Don't move your markers. Now Aziz is very technical, so it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I mean, the smart fight is for Buatsi to keep money in the jab and keep turning him and set him up for the right hand. But that's what he should do.
Yeah.
The question is, will he do it? I favor Buatsi, the bigger man. But
Aziz's coach, we all know Buddy McGirt. He's a busy man, also training Callum Stewart, who was fighting in that other bout. Shalom can't stop talking about this. Buatsi's in fighting form. He's ready to show he's the man in that ring, man. Aziz,
I like Buddy McGirt a lot. He's a very nice guy. He's hysterically funny. And I just didn't appreciate when he was with Callum Smith, the comments he was making about Bitterbiev. And I thought, come on. Buddy, you're a world champ. You got to know. You got to know your guy's going to get destroyed.
Yeah. This one's huge though too, eh? This one's a huge one. It's being broadcast live on Sky in the UK and in Ireland and in the US. So Peacock's got you covered down in the States, guys. If you need to watch this one, definitely this one's huge. These guys are gonna go at it. They were originally supposed to fight January 13th at the O2, but thanks to a little scheduling hiccup with the other light heavyweight world title fight, they had to shuffle the calendar. Aziz's coach, Buddy McGirt, is a busy man, so they got it worked out. I'm glad it's finally getting underway. This card, yeah, man, big. It's a big one.
What's the clicking sound? Sounds like somebody's typing, or we have a brace of woodpeckers online with us.
You know what? I can't even hear it.
Oh
yeah, it must be. It sounds like it's all you.
Could be. It could be the last few screws in my head falling.
Yes. This one, guys, gotta watch it, man. There's a lot of good up and comers on here. Not only do we get to see Dan Aziz and Josh Buatsi, Adam Azim. Love watching this kid, man. 10-0. He's just burst onto the scene. He's killing it right now, taking on Enoch Poulsen for the EBU European Super Light. Caroline Dubois taking on Miranda Reyes. That one's for the IBO World Light. And Ben Whitaker, 5-0. Khalid Gradia, who's 10-13-5. So we're looking like Whitaker's. This is going to be a step-up fight for Whitaker. A little, not really a step-up, more like a stepping stone. This one should be quick. Then we got Francesca Hennessy, 2-0. Bantamweight girls, man, taking on Laura Velda Benito, I believe it is. And Jamie Tishkiva, TKV. He's been on the show a couple times. We're trying to get him back on. He's been sparring partners for some of the Brits' best heavyweights. 5-1-0 right now. He's taking on Dubyshenko. This one should be a good heavyweight bout, man. Dubyshenko, he's 10-14-1, ranked 141. Jamie stepping it up. He's ranked right now 196. It's going to be a nice heavyweight bout on there. So yeah, some great up-and-comers.
Sounds like it. I just can't get into. Perhaps I shouldn't say this, but women's boxing just doesn't do it for me. I found the fight last week of Gabrielle Fundora. I wasn't impressed by her at all.
But she got more skill than her brother.
Yeah, I guess. But he's not fighting a proper style. I mean,
exactly.
We
talked about this last week. If he would have been, if he was fighting a proper style, staying at that length and using that reach, he'd be unstoppable. But
right, and when you're in close, you give away balance, and anytime he's going to slug with someone, he's going to get caught. And
you're also giving away power.
Yeah, and yes,
and generate full power on half extension. You can't. I don't care how big your hips are. I don't care. The hardest shots is when everything is in line together. It's a well-oiled gear and piston setup, man. If it's only half cocked, you're only getting half the power.
And that's why Sugar Ray Robinson was so devastating. He was a thin guy at 160, but he had the reach. And his great trainer, Harry Wiley, told him, take the steps back. After the clinch, move back, create the distance, hide the right hand with the jab or double jab, and then throw it like a slingshot. Or, double jab, quick left hand. And he was devastated. And Fundora looks like a fighter. Well, not really, but I mean, his occupation is, and he gets in that ring. But you think a guy like Tim Tszyu, he wouldn't go 2 rounds with Tim Tszyu.
No.
Tszyu would walk through him. I also can't believe, but I'm not surprised, because PBC's bleeding money, that they're going to sacrifice Keith Thurman, who hasn't fought in 2 years. And I like Thurman, but he's going to fight Tim Tszyu, and he's going to get annihilated. And, Thurman has that pleasant face, and he's talking and moving his head. And I just said, man, you just shut up. You're going to make it worse. Don't annoy Tim Tszyu, because he's going to come right at you. And I like what Tszyu said. He said, listen, Charlo's a chicken. He doesn't count. He never counted. Him and his brother were just media creations. He's not going to fight me. And after I destroy Thurman and the other guys, Charlo's going to ask for a fight, and I'm just going to say, forget it. He doesn't count. He's done. And I agree with him. Why not?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, I believe it. I don't think so.
Same with that guy we saw with the fighter, the Spanish fighter who beat that guy, Chris Colbert. Right? Yeah. And in the first fight, this kid destroyed Colbert, but they gave Colbert a decision. And Colbert said, not until he admits it, I won't give him a rematch. No one wanted to fight Colbert. I had to give him a rematch. This guy flattens Colbert. And then he says, well, I deserve a third fight. And the other guy said, no, you don't. You rubbed my face in it for a couple of years. You refused to fight me. You said I had to come on my knees and beg. And I just knocked you out unconscious for half an hour. So no third fight. Live with it. Right. People don't realize that in boxing. What goes around comes around.
No, it's true. It's true. Keyshawn Davis, have you heard the news about him?
No.
Well,
transitioning?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's kind of funny. No matter how hard he's been trying, Keyshawn Davis simply can't get over that hump. Mr. Andy Cruz, on 4 separate occasions, and including in the 2021 Olympic finals. While those matchups were close, Davis every time came up short, and those losses haven't put a dent in his confidence, as we can see the way he's rolling through right now. He gets annoyed, though, when Cruz's name is brought up in any conversation. Davis wants to get his hands on that Cuban again. He doesn't believe that Cruz wants any part of him, and if he does, it won't end well for him, is what he's saying. So he's looking to fight him, man. He wants a redemption. Keyshawn's very loud. He'll talk. The hitman ain't trying to fight him. That's it.
Yeah.
So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Davis recorded himself saying, I will knock him out. He's just not ready. Cruz 28, somewhat of a prodigy. There ain't many fighters in history of the sport who can brag about winning 2 gold medals. Cruz can. In the pros, he's still a baby, but even with just a pair of fights under his belt, the talent's there. We can see it. We can definitely see it.
This is one thing Springs Toledo said, boxing's not really that difficult for the people that run it to understand. Make fights that the fans want to see. Put the best together. But for some reason, they just, we'll have this guy fight 5 guys before he fights Cruz. We'll have this guy fights, another 5 guys before he fights Davis. Just make the fights.
They should.
And they won't. One thing we should talk about is Shakur Stevenson. I don't buy for a second that he's retiring. I've heard that from so many fighters. Ray Leonard retired 6 times. Ali retired a handful of times. I mean, I think he's just frustrated because he can't get Emmanuel Navarrete in the ring.
Hey, that's what if that's what he wants, and that's what he's looking to do, and he's got everything else he's accomplished. I've seen in interviews before that some of these guys like Davidson, Stevenson, these young cats, they don't want to be in this forever. This is just a stepping stone for what they really want to do. And if you made millions of dollars and you're sitting comfortable and you got a belt on, and it's not your, you can't get the guy that you want to fight, then why do it?
Yeah.
Why put yourself through it?
Yeah, I understand that. I just think he doesn't really have any other skills at this point. Also, I think there's a bit of
he's got a face to sell a Buick.
I guess he is Buick. But here's the thing: Navarrette's attitude, from what I've heard, Navarrete said, "I'll fight him, but if he's going to keep running around and just tap me and laugh and run, I'm not going to get in the ring with him. I'm not saying stand in front of me and trade, but at least come forward, make it a fight. But if you're just going to run up, tap me twice with your jab, and then run, I'm not interested."
No.
I can understand that, but by the same token, he fights the way he fights. The idea is to not get hit. But no one's buying this. The other thing I found this week that I don't get is so many people are saying, Terrence Crawford, his best fights would be against Tim Tszyu and this person at 154. He should go up to 160 against Canelo. He's not physically a big man, Terrence Crawford. He's not a middleweight. He is a welterweight. He probably will fight Spence at 154 and destroy him again. And Spence tried to rain on his parade by saying, well, I had cataracts. And but you know what? You could have called it off then and had surgery then.
Yeah.
You had to say it now is disingenuous. You're trying to take away from his victory. It makes no difference. He beat your ass, and he'll do it again. And the 7 pounds extra is not going to help Spence. Yeah. And I think Crawford would be silly at close to 40 to get in the ring against Tim Tszyu, who's almost 6 feet. And, it makes no sense. People.
Crawford's 5'8". Crawford's 5'8". The heaviest I believe he's ever weighed in was like just under 150, like 147, 148. He weighed in at 147 against Earl Spence, and I'm pretty sure that's the top of it, man. Is that welter? So, but he's been down there pretty low, 135, 134. But he's not, and he's 5'8". He's not a big guy. So yeah, you're right. He's not.
It's one of the problems of boxing online. People say, what happens if Canelo fought Terry McGovern? Well, McGovern's been dead for over 140 years, so he probably wouldn't do well. And the most he ever weighed, even when he fought at lightweight, in a fixed fight against Joe Gans that he won in 1 round, but it was fixed. McGovern never weighed more than 122 pounds. And Canelo's comfortable at 175. So you can't make these mythical matchups. You have to keep the person within the era and within the weight class. Crawford's a welterweight, and he's perfect size. Most welterweight was usually welterweight and middleweight were the most popular divisions for some time, because most people in real life, except for a fat tabagoo like me, are welterweights or middleweights.
Right.
They're not 6'6" in heavyweights.
No.
So that's why it appeals to so many people.
Yeah, because if you just had a little bit of motivation, got your ass up the couch, you can do it too.
This past week in Sports Illustrated, Chris Mannix had a good article on Zhang.
Okay.
And it was interesting. Zhang's 40, but he's getting better. And he said he's getting better, Zhang said himself, because he has better instruction in the U.S. than he had in China.
Oh, yeah.
So
now he's going to be dangerous. You watch.
He said, now I got better balance, which means I have more power, and I can work out 6 days a week, and my diet's strictly controlled. And he said, so to me, he said, Joe Joyce is the beginning, not the end. So he said,
yeah, that's what I keep saying, man. This kid, like, I watched this guy box, okay, and get dragged out of the ring because he was going through kidney failure.
Yeah.
Like, he's an animal, man. And it's because, you know what? He's not just doing it for himself. He's doing it for a whole country.
That's what they said in the article. He's doing it for 2 billion Chinese who look upon him like a warlord, almost like this god that's showing the world that, like he said, Chinese power is real power. And he said, I don't speak English, but boxing's a universal language. You know, whoever's standing at the end wins.
Yeah, there's no mistake in that.
And I have no doubt, and I'm sure you agree, that he easily beat Hrgovic. Hrgovic was given a gift.
Yeah.
And Hrgovic's not stupid. He has to know that. And I think if they fought again, Zhang stops him.
Yeah. It could happen.
Hrgovic's got size.
Yeah. You know what what was that fight that he had just a little while ago? Hrgovic, he was fighting
Taylor Swift.
Is that the one that was very lackluster?
Yes.
Yes, that's exactly the one I'm talking about. I was very, I like watching these big guys fight, but that was disappointing.
He tends to fight up to the level of his competition, and
sure.
That's like something a Toronto sports team would do. So, if the Leafs are playing a last place team, they'll play like the last place team. So, with boxing, you got to fight above the level of your competition. That's why Ali was so dominant, and same with Joe Louis and Lennox Lewis. So it's just Zhang brings the level up. I think he could beat Dubois. I really liked Dubois in his last fight, but he was fighting against that fat.
He looked good.
And Miller is going to end up in prison. So he's done. But maybe Dubois against the other big baby, Gerard Anderson.
Yeah, Gerard Anderson. He's coming up slow.
Yeah,
he's coming up slow. I think what I like is that they are definitely not trying to fast track this kid. They're trying to get him all the experience that he needs. They are putting, they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, but they're definitely training the only basket. They're pushing him pretty hard, but they're not trying to just throw him in there for nothing.
They're bringing him along correctly.
They're developing him correctly.
Yeah, and as Angelo Dundee would say, you always want your guy to go in against a guy who's a little bit better than him, but who he can beat and who he can learn something from. And, Joe Joyce wouldn't be a bad opponent. I don't think Joe Joyce recovers from those knockouts. I don't think anyone could.
Honestly,
that second one was just
devastating. He crunched him.
And I'm sure somewhere he opened a brain bleed in his head because that was a concussive, destructive shot. And I don't see Joe Joyce physically in or out of the ring recovering from that.
And you know what? He was the juggernaut, man. You're not supposed to be able to stop this guy.
Right, and the thing was, his biggest skill was he's got the best chin. Well, if your chin is your greatest asset, unless it's Jay Leno, it's not going to be any good. Not in boxing.
Right? Yeah.
Where you got to hide your chin.
Exactly. But honestly, Zhang, he's just man, he's got a serious left, man. That left is
and the left he knocked him out with reminds me of the left that George Foreman knocked out Addison Rodriguez with. And their fight, it was a comeback left hook to finish the combination. And Rodriguez, who's 6'3", 235, went down, lifted his head up, but he said, my legs weren't listening. I couldn't move them. And I know in that fight, his corner was Angelo Dundee and his son, Jimmy. And Angelo said, hey, Jim, to his son, I'm glad you helped me here. You go pick him up. And Jimmy goes, I can't lift him, Dad. He's too heavy, and his legs aren't working. But when Foreman hit you, and Tyson said this week, my only regret is that that I didn't fight George Foreman. But at the time, he said, if I fight George Foreman, I can't win either way. If I beat him, I beat an old guy. And if I lose to an old guy.
Exactly. Like that's it. That's it. Really, you can't do that shit.
No, but Foreman was effective into his 40s because he still had a very heavy punch. Foreman was one of the guys where he could take you out with a jab. There's very few fighters in history, Liston, Foreman, Tyson, Joe Louis, who could hit you with one shot and the night is over.
Oh, yeah.
And when Larry Holmes was on 60 Minutes, they showed him in the classroom. What does it feel like to knock someone out? He said, I said this before, other fighters have said it, I don't get paid for overtime. It's like going to school Monday morning and the teacher says at 9:30, you can go home for the week. Right?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, so Zhang has to be, Mike, is it fair to say that he's the preeminent puncher in the division now?
I would have to say so. I think so. You know what? Here, let's look at the result of the first fight that got called in the 6th round. Okay. There it is.
Broken cheekbone, broken orbital bone. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross, man. Hey, WBC's in the house. What's up? What do we think about Fury's cut? Fury up to shenanigans, maybe. We were touching base on that. You know what? That was a clear possibility that could have happened in the fight. So you definitely know that Fury's training in that ring. Leaned over his opponent, which means he's going to try and use his weight to keep Usyk at a standstill, keep him in place.
And that was a headbutt, but probably an elbow.
Well, I don't know exactly. Well, we can always see who he was in the ring with too, right? At the time,
but he got hit. It was an elbow or a headbutt. That's what does it. And I mean, you can fight, but the thing is, let's say they sew it up. It's already sewn, I guess. And they say you need to take 3 months off.
Yeah.
3 months doesn't mean he's ready to fight. 3 months means that the stitches are taken out and it's healed. It doesn't mean he's ready to take a punch there.
Oh, then you still have tons of scar tissue, and especially on the brow. Like,
where the bone is.
Yeah, you have these guys. Oh, what's this? No swelling around the eye for a cut so deep seems very odd to me.
No, there was swelling around the eye. That's incorrect. If he showed a picture again, he was swelling. There was swelling above and below the eye. I noticed that. And, speaking to a couple of trainers today, they said there was swelling. That's what you get obviously from a punch, but in this case, an elbow or a headbutt. The eyelid was swollen and below the eye was swollen and on the side. So I think it's legit. It's just upsetting. It's depressing because it was less than 2 weeks away and we wanted to see it. And, it's unlikely it's going to happen now at any time.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Fury doesn't need the money anymore. He came back from mental disease and that was heroic, and he won the titles again, and he's got nothing left to prove.
True.
What does he have to prove? He doesn't need to beat Anthony Joshua or anyone. He's held all the titles, in 2 different reigns. He's made hundreds of millions. Hopefully he's kept the money. He's got a nice, beautiful wife and children. Walk away. What do you care at this point?
There we go. What do we think, guys?
Yeah, right below the cut, that's all swelling. Yeah, right there, that's like you can see. Right below the eye or below the cut, that's swelling. That's thick swelling on the brow from the elbow or the butt. Under the eye, it's red. Right where the cut is, that whole location is swollen. Just look at his left eye compared to that. That's all puffed up. And
That cut's gross.
yeah, it is gross. You could Photoshop that, but I think it's a real cut. And Fury's probably more angry than anyone because he's thinking, I was actually getting in shape for this one. I really wanted to shut him up.
Yeah. Well, you know what? He has suffered a cut like that in the past, hasn't he? He's had a cut
against. I was going to say Oliver Hardy of Laurel and Hardy. No, against Wallen.
Yeah.
Otto Wallin.
And that one was horrible, man. That one was bad.
Yeah, and that I don't know if that was from a punch or a headbutt, but that was a terrible cut. But he fought through it because that's what champions do.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I was very impressed. But yeah, no. The more I look at that, the more I zoom in on it. Wow, it's So WBC. Do you believe it's suspicious? All that's gone on. Is that what you're saying? You say that maybe it was just it was the prime opportunity for him to capitalize on something so devious, something like that. Is shenanigans? Is he pulling it? Did he do it on purpose? Did he ask the guy to headbutt him?
Some people are saying that, but then again, I have to admit, if I'm being honest with myself, and I never have been in 63 years, that I never thought this fight was going to happen anyways. And I sent an email to Russ Amber recently, and I said, Fury's never getting in the ring with your guy who's sick. That will never happen.
Oh, so it wasn't a headbutt or an elbow. There's a video of the sparring that's been released. It's been darkened so you can't see the eye. Very suspicious.
The silly thing about what you just said was, about what they said, that you just repeated, Mike, was, we've already seen it. It's like watching a porno film. Well, don't watch that. I've already seen it. You can't take that out of my mind. You can't go back in time. That's a serious cut. If it wasn't an elbow or a head, then it had to have been from a ferocious left hook, or a thumb. But that's an elbow. I mean, I don't believe them. I don't believe anything Fury says, but I do believe it's a cut. I do believe it's from an elbow. And that's because I've been around the sport, been watching it for over 50 years, and those kind of cuts are caused by elbows and headbutts. And that's really not even the issue.
Oh yeah, this is great.
I mean, I don't believe
the cut's been done after uppercut was done. Maybe deep cut like that swells up way more. True, but it's got scar tissue, and usually if it's hit in the right spot, that scar tissue will sometimes split. I've had it happen myself. If I cuts over the eye here, where you get hit right and it just reopens back up. And if we actually look at Fury's cuts before that were pretty devastating in the past, man. Like here, for instance, this one here. This is a nasty cut. This one's pretty gross. And honestly, I can see why that one has popped open as deep as it has. For instance,
because he's fat, he's out of shape, he's overweight, he's got all that bone there, and he's like one of those. I wish I could remember the island. Dan Aykroyd told me. It doesn't matter. With those big heads, with those big cement heads.
Easter Island.
Thank you. That's how big Fury is, and he gets hit there. Don't forget, this is a tradition in British boxing, bleeding. Henry Cooper lost 2 fights to Ali because he was bleeding so bad, and they had to stop the fight in the 5th round. And the great Jimmy Cannon said, "Sleep befell Henry Cooper, as it must befall all British heavyweights midway through the 5th round." And he said, all British heavyweights have skin as brittle as a 50-year-old coat of paint. And that's Fury. I mean, he cuts. He's a cutter.
Yeah, here's a nasty one. Come on, where are you?
Is that the one where he needed a Kotex?
Yeah. Either that or just hold his finger inside it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Let me share this with everybody out there so you guys can see what we're talking about.
By the way, if you're eating raw steak tonight or
you might want to look away if you're definitely eating that stuff right now. Here we go. And abracadabra.
That's a bad cut. There's 2 cuts there.
That's nasty, right? So
that was the most recent one, like yesterday or today. So that's not from the Ottawa Lean fight.
No, this one is this is not the one. I don't think this is the recent one.
No, so that's 2 different cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not fighting for 6 months. That's a really bad cut. The one on his eyelid is going to take a long time, but the other ones can take a much longer time.
So this cut, what WBC here is saying is this new cut is under that old cut there, because it looks like there's 2 cuts on that eye right now.
Where is WBC from? Is he from England?
I've never asked.
Oh, if he's from England, Mike, then I can talk. I'll do his voice while the cut is a new cut, not scar tissue. Oh, yeah. Women's Boxing Channel.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about the Kotex remark. That's a bad cut. I
can't even look at it anymore because I'm supposed to eat dinner after this.
I've had dinner. I actually had prime rib, but
bloody. Like you like it bloody?
I like it rare or medium rare, but my wife likes it well done, and that's not a euphemism. So.
I don't know if everybody out there in the world caught that, but that was a good one.
Well, it's the great Groucho Marx line. They said, "Were you good in bed?" He said, "I was an ardent but ineffectual lover. That's why I only have 3 kids." But he said, "I am good. I'm getting better. I don't fall out of bed anymore." So with Fury, you got the double cut, and that's a good 6 months. So right now it's January. February, March, April, May, June, July. We're looking at July, August, September.
And then that's even we can get a deal done.
Right. It's unlikely they will. I don't think this fight's going to happen. I think we can say, let's put to rest something you touched on earlier, which is this wasn't done on purpose. He didn't say, "Hey, Mike, come over here with that hammer. Whack me here with the other side with the prongs because I don't want to fight this guy." It happened.
Right.
That's part of boxing.
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be 2 sides that believe. Listen, what? And I wouldn't put it past Fury. I wouldn't put it past Fury. He has that kind of
devious mentality.
He
right,
does.
But
he does.
That's not even the worst cut of
Clay, but Clay's coach cut Clay's gloves. He watched it live.
If you want the worst cut, there's an opening line in the bar for a girl you're trying to pick up. Do you want to see the worst cut ever in boxing? The worst cut I ever saw was Rocky Marciano against Ezra Charles. Charles hit him, split his nose right down the middle. You could take his nose. God. And his eye was also cut bad too. And so after the 7th round, the referee said Harry Kessel, I think, said to him, "Rocky, I'm gonna have to stop it. And Rocky said, "1 more round. If I don't get him, you can stop it." And Rocky knocked Ezra Charles out. He didn't want to lose his title. But they had to stitch it inside and outside. And
that's crazy, man.
And the surgeon who did it said, "Rock, your body, your face can't take much more of this.
No.
Now or maybe after another fight might be the best time to call it a career because you can't keep doing that. That's going to keep reopening. Your body's just not meant to do that. Take that."
No.
And if you look at Basilio and his rematch with Sugar Ray Robinson, his left eye was like a grapefruit. He caught a thumb or it may have been just Sugar's jabs, but I was told it was the thumb. And by the end of the second round, it's sticking out and swollen. And he's got that huge hematoma, like Mark Homanek or that Canadian guy at UFC. And it was sticking out, but he didn't quit. He fought the whole fight and almost won.
Mm-hmm.
So cuts, remember Klitschko against Lennox Lewis. Yeah. And they just said to him, the corner said, we can't stop it. It's too deep and too long.
Yeah. For WBC, what are your thoughts? Caroline Dubois, Miranda Reyes fight, Francesca Hennessy, Laura Valdebenito. What are your thoughts on these fights coming up this weekend? Also, we have, I want to say Artiga. Well, yeah, the Conor Ben fight, yes. We're talking about women's boxing for a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go to TV then.
Yeah. Okay. Because you know what? There is some good ones. Jasmine Artiga. We've had her on the show, man. Watch out for this girl, Superfly, taking on Nancy Franco. It's going to be a good one. This
is Helena fighting still? Marjanovic from Western Canada?
I believe so, but I haven't seen her in a while.
Right.
Yeah. So, but there's some great fighters on this card, man. Louis LeBron, he's 19-5-1, sitting on the A side. He's had a tough go. Out of his last, he's won one out of his last 5. So here we go. Benjino Aguilar, 11-0. Watch out for this kid taking on Corey Marksman, who's 8-0 in the lightweight division. This is a lightweight showdown that a lot of people have been talking about. It's going to be great. Daniel Pero, 5-0, taking on Joe Jones. Jorge Carlos, 5-0, taking on Quintarius Chappell, who's 3-0. And then Alexander Gucci, taking on Osmar Rodriguez Games. So it's a big one. Oh, another lady fight. Candy Wyatt back in the ring, taking on Maricela Guarnero. So,
what's interesting to me when you mention these last names, these long
yeah.
In the 50s, Don Dunphy did a fight, light heavy, where Anton Christoforidis was fighting Gus Lesnovich. And so they said, how'd you do that? He said, I just called them Anton and Gus. It takes too long to say Christoforidis and Lesnovich. But at that time, they're already in the dressing room after the fight.
Yeah.
So, but unlike back then, and even up to the 70s, fighters would anglicize their names. Not anymore.
Yeah. It's it's crazy how far it's come, eh?
Yeah.
300-year history. Started over in the middle of the world there, and now it's
in the 1696 to 1698 were the first real fights where people got together and people watched and they bare knuckle and they fought, and then you trace it from there to the 1700s, and
yeah,
a friend of mine, Clay Moyle, bought the archive, the Nat Fleischer archive. He was the editor and founder of Ring, which was really the in-house publication for promoter Tex Rickard, who promoted Jack Dempsey. It was for Madison Square Garden fans,
right.
And then became this, phenomenon. And so Fleischer wrote histories of fighters from the early 1800s to 1890s, all the way up to the 60s and 70s. And the thing is, they were all made up.
Yeah.
Most of it was fake. So,
just doctor and stuff.
Yeah, he knew nothing about the Canadian George Dixon, and George Dixon, he thought he was the best featherweight ever. He may very well have been first black man to ever win a world title, and a Canadian first black man to lose a world title and regain it. Bantamweight, featherweight, invented the speed bag, invented shadow boxing. But the other thing about George Dixon, of course, was he was light-skinned black, and so Fleischer started this lie that his father was a white British sailor.
Oh, wow.
And
of course he was.
And Jason Winders, who wrote a book on him, and I've researched him for years, found out that his family originally came up here during the War of 1812, and they're one of his ancestors, several black families, brought up on a British destroyer and, and deposited in Halifax, and they helped him in Patrickville. But his family, you can trace his family back to the 1700s. They were all black. There's no white people. And this was made up. And the interesting thing is, one of the things that is published this past week was called The Problem with John L. Sullivan. People always say John L. was the first world heavyweight champion. And I say that's bullshit, because he wouldn't fight the best fighters in the world. He didn't fight black fighters. He didn't fight the Canadian George Godfrey, and certainly Peter Jackson, who was 6'2", 220. Sullivan was 5'10", 200.
Yeah, we had to send people like Donovan Boucher out, the road warrior, to go beat people's asses because they wouldn't come here and fight us.
Yeah, and so Sullivan hated black fighters. But when I did my article, when I posted it this week, I did a lot of research and found out that though Sullivan was born in 1858, 2 years before the Civil War, he supported the South, he supported the Confederacy, he hated black people, and he believed in white supremacy.
Yeah,
but he loved George Dixon and supported him financially. And it wasn't because of what Nat Fleischer wrote, because Fleischer wrote that in 1937, and what's his face, Sullivan died, I think like in 1918 or something. So he never would have read it, but it was common. It was said a lot back then to make black fighters more palatable that they had white ancestors. And
I did a piece 2 years ago. I did a week-long special about Murderers Row, Black Murderers Row, which was, those guys. Forget the name.
Curley.
Yes, Curley.
Holman Williams.
Yeah, these guys were the most feared men in boxing. So much so that they had to fight each other, like 8 times each. Because nobody would fight them. They had to create their own title.
Yeah, Springs Toledo wrote a book on that, and recently someone found a clip of, it was either Holman Williams or someone else, but it was a 22-second clip. But Springs was in tears because he said, "That's all we have of the man," And so that was the original Black Murderers Row, and no one was fighting. That was the second. The first was Sam McVeigh, Sam Langford, Joe Jeanette, Harry Wills, and they couldn't get a fight. And they kept drawing the color line. And the thing is, all of them except Sullivan fought black fighters before they were champions. So Peter Jackson fought James J. Corbett to a 61-round draw. They were both too beaten up after. But once he won the title, he wouldn't give him another shot.
Yeah.
And James J. Jeffries had fought black fighters, but once he won the title, they wouldn't give him a shot. Jeffries was so terrified of fighting Jack Johnson, they had to put a gun to his head. He wasn't going to get in the ring. He was terrified. And as he said after the fight, I couldn't have beaten him in 1,000 years. And so all these great black fighters, it's only very recently. I mean, some of the lighter weight fighters like Dixon, who got fights, and Joe Gans, who became champions, but got no money.
Yeah.
Didn't receive the money they were promised.
A lot of these guys fought and sacrificed, their health for later on in life for peanuts, man.
Peanuts. And the one that breaks my heart is Ike Williams, one of the all-time great lightweights. And people say, Duran's the best lightweight ever. He may very well be. And it's either Duran or Benny Leonard. Ike Williams held the title for almost 8 years, but he couldn't get fights because he didn't belong to the mobbed-up New York Managers Guild. So he goes there. Blinky Palermo, who's ripping off every fighter with Frankie Carbo, So he fights Bob Montgomery, great fighter in Philly, and he's promised $40,000. He gets a check for $3,000. He said, "I'm supposed to get 40," and takes a revolver out. Palermo puts it in his mouth. You can have the bullet, or you can have the $3,000. And he testified against the mob in 1960. And they said, "Aren't you afraid?" And he said, "No, I live in a park across the street on a bench. I lost my children. I lost my wife. I got nothing. If I had money, the only thing I would spend it on is a gun to kill them, to kill Blinky Palermo." Okay? And they did it to hundreds of fighters, but 99% of the time it was black fighters they ripped off.
Yeah. And you know what? These guys, they work hard. You know, I've interviewed some prospects from down in the south, and you know, like Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and stuff like that. Like, guys are still working 60 hours a week,
Yeah.
you know, and still training 40, like 100-hour weeks. These guys got, you know, training every single day, 3 hours a day. It's tiring. These guys got dedication, but that's what builds champions, is that dedication and that drive.
Yeah, and you look at Lennox Lewis. I mean, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent like that, Mike, but Lennox Lewis said one of the reasons Anthony Joshua was successful, because unlike a lot of fighters today, he got enough backing financially, he could spend full time on boxing. 99% of all boxers, as you well know, have a job.
Yeah.
After hours.
Yeah.
They train. That's not easy.
A lot of them are like after hours in beer can or booze can security.
Yeah.
You know, those after hours clubs, the rave.
Thousands of boxers have done that for hundreds of years.
Yeah. And, you know, it pays them good money. But see, the thing is that if you're not going to make it as a world champion and you're a fighter, you still always have that ability to open up your own gym and train people and make money.
Right. But you look at a guy like Jersey Joe Walcott, he dropped out. You know, he had 6 kids, so he got a job with the government, and he got hooked up with Felix Baciccio. And and he, you know, he said, "I believe in you," but Baciccio was a mob guy, so he was able to get him the fights and get him the money.
Right.
Other guys that weren't mob guys, sorry, you're not getting the fights.
Oh yeah, and nowadays it's, hey, did you get that $1.2 million to fight for those 4 belts?
Yeah.
No, my purse is only $1.2 million. What do you mean?
And people should look for it on the weekend or next week. Once Upon a Time in the Prize Ring on my Substack. My article, The Fight That Broke the Mob. And this was Don Jordan and Virgil Akins for the world welterweight title. Akins was a mob fighter. His fights were fixed. He fought guys that had never lost, never been knocked down, and he would knock them down 5 times a round, 3 rounds in a row. And they came up against Don Jordan in LA, and his management just said to the mob, "Screw you. He's not taking a dive. That's okay. We'll just take 90% of his purse." No, your guy's a bum, and we're going to show it. And the mob tried to kill these managers, and fortunately, the FBI was taping audio and videotaping it all, and they got caught and they went to prison. And the thing was, these guys were like, "What do you mean no?" Like when you try to show a dog something on TV. What do you mean no? I kill people for money. What do you mean no?
Yeah, that's
you know. So it took a lot of guts, a lot of balls to stand up to these guys. No one had done that before.
Yeah,
because people got killed and got hurt. You know, and a lot of those people are still around today in the fight game. You know, Fury's main backer was a kingpin, a mobster who moved to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly, the Irish mob backing MTK Global was their name.
Yeah.
Yeah, they disbanded pretty quick. It's, you know, mob money's been around forever. Like, mob money started the TTC here in Toronto.
That I didn't know.
Yes, the TTC, Toronto Transit, was started on mob money.
Well, you know that and who else would have the disposable income? This past week, a very dear friend of mine in Canadian boxing, Marvin the Weasel Elkin, died, and he died last week. He died a week ago.
Right.
And Marvin was just turning 90. Marvin knew all these great fighters, and good friends of George Chuvalo, and he'd driven for Jimmy Hoffa, Frank Petroni in Montreal, and also driven for Vito Genovese, and he drove for Muhammad Ali when Muhammad Ali was here. Yeah. And, you know, he had wonderful stories, but I want to tell you a quick story. He would always like to BS with guys. So he said to me, he looked at me one time and he said, "Lou, I was there. Where? I was at the Jack Johnson fight against James J. Jeffries in Reno, Nevada." I said, "That's a bold-faced lie." He said, "No, it isn't." I said, "That fight was July 4th, 1910. You were born 1934. You couldn't be at a fight 24 years before you were born. That's not possible. You weren't at that fight." I was there. Wow. Show me a picture.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Lou, I can't believe it. An hour and 15 minutes just flew by. Every time we do this, I swear, knowledge, people. That's all you get on this channel is knowledge, good predictions, good analytics. Just a great presence. Always fun. Next week, around the same time, new fights. We got lots to talk about next week too. Big schedule coming up.
And remember this: the big head ain't no good head, but it's my head.
Words of true wisdom, there, folks.
Words of wisdom. Words of wisdom from a complete idiot.
So next weekend, we're going to talk world title fight: Teofimo Lopez Ortiz for Lopez's WBO junior welterweight title.
Good fight.
Keyshawn Davis, Jose Pedraza, 10 rounds in the lightweight. Huge fight right there, guys. Blue chip prospect, Keyshawn Davis, Olympian. Hamza Shiraz, Liam Williams on the 10th. Sam Noakes, Louis Sylvester, Anthony Yard against to be announced. 10 rounds. Masood Abdullah, watch out for this kid. Carol Ituma, another big name on the card. So next week, two great cards going on here. Lots of fighting action. And see some people get their ass whooped. Guys, what we got to do? We got to go watch this MVP promotions. Watch our boy Julian the Quiet Storm Smith. Sign language, the fact that he won everything tonight. It'll be great. I'll be talking to him after that fight. Watch out for this kid, the Quiet Storm. Lou, any last words?
Yes, a woman is a woman, but a good cigar is a smoke. That's a Groucho Marx line.
All right, Lou. I will see you next week, same time. All the fighting fans out there, remember, fighting solves everything, so don't forget to knuckle up.
Yes.
That's words of wisdom.
Absolutely.
All right. See you later.
Take care.